Today, I turn 90 years old, and here are the three habits that keep my brain working better than yours. I have no dementia, no fog in my head, no moments where you forget why you walked into a room. I remember the names of all seven great grandchildren, the birthday of each one, and what flavor of ice cream every single one of them likes. People ask me what the secret is. The secret is not pills, not diet, and not genetics. The secret is 10 minutes a day that I spend on three simple habits. Today is my birthday, and the best gift I can give is to tell you what they are. My name is Walter. I was born in 1935 in a small town in rural Kentucky. I survived the war, moved north for war, built a life in Cleveland, spent 40 years as a structural engineer, lived through recessions, layoffs, the death of my wife, and the birth of seven great grandchildren. My head has worked through all of it. It works now too. I did not always think of the brain as something that needed tending. For most of my life, I just lived and worked. The brain was a tool I used without thinking about the fact that tools need maintenance. The way a car needs oil, the way a good knife needs sharpening. I understood this late, but not too late. In 1999, my wife Dorothy died. We had been together for 44 years. She was the person I thought out loud with. Every evening we talked over coffee. I would tell her about work. She would tell me about the neighbors, about the kids, about what she was reading. They were ordinary conversations. I did not understand then what they were doing to my brain. That every one of those conversations was a workout, a tensing memory, the web of connections between people and events. When Dorothy was gone, the house went quiet. Quiet in a real way, not a temporary way. I would sit in the evenings and notice that my thoughts were starting to go in circles. The same memories, the same worries, the same questions without answers. I had watched what happens to people when they are left alone and stop challenging their minds. First, small forgetfulness, then more, then names, then faces. I decided that was not going to be my path, not out of fear, out of stubbornness. I have always been a stubborn man. Dorothy said it was my worst quality. Now I think it is my best one. I developed it through habits, not because I read about them in a book, because I found them myself through trial and error over several years of living alone. They have worked for 22 years without interruption. Habit 1. Write by hand every single day. Not type. Write pen on paper. Every morning I open a notebook and write. Not a diary in the traditional sense. Not a confession and not a to-do list. I write what I am thinking right now. Sometimes it is a memory that surfaced over breakfast. Sometimes it is a thought about something I saw in the yard yesterday. Sometimes it is just a description of what the sky looks like outside the window this morning. It takes about 10 minutes, no more. When you write by hand, the brain works differently than when you type or speak out loud. The hand moves slowly and the thought is forced to slow down with it. You cannot get ahead of the hand. You move at its pace. And at that pace, the brain starts noticing details, connections, nuances that in the normal rush of thinking go by unnoticed. I have more than 40 of these notebooks now. I do not go back and read them. I do not need them as an archive. I need them as a process. The act of writing itself every morning without skipping is a signal to the brain. You are working. You are needed. Wake up. Neuroscientists call this activation of the prefrontal cortex. I call it talking to myself. Dorothy is gone, and I can no longer think out loud with her. The notebook replaced that conversation, a poor substitute, but better than silence. Habit 2. Learn one new thing every day. One specific thing. Not reading the news, not scrolling through a feed, actually learning something I did not know yesterday, something concrete, with details, with history, with context. I do this different ways. Sometimes I take an encyclopedia, open it to a random page, and read one article all the way through. Sometimes I ask a great grandchild about something in their life, the music they listen to, the games they play. Sometimes I watch a documentary about something completely outside my experience. Underwater volcanoes, the history of money, how they build bridges in Japan. It does not matter what. What matters is that it is genuinely new, not a variation of something I already know. Here is why these words. The brain is not a muscle in the ordinary sense. You cannot build it up by repeating the same movements. The brain grows from novelty. Every new piece of knowledge means new connections between neurons, new routes, new pathways. The more pathways there are, the harder it is for disease to block them all at once. People who spend their whole lives doing the same things, walking the same routes, talking to the same people age faster. Not because they are bad people, because a brain without novelty starts to conserve. It removes connections that are not being used, sees closed pathways that have no traffic. That is a natural process, but it can be slowed down. One new thing a day. Small specific every day. That seems like very little, but over a year, that is 365 new pathways in your head. Over 20 years, that is a network so dense that disease cannot shut it down quickly. Subscribe and hit like right now. The third habit is the simplest one and the most important. The one nobody talks about. Stay with me to the end. Habit 3. Talk to a stranger every day. Every day. On purpose. Not because you need help or information. Just because a living stranger is the most demanding task you can give your brain. I walk every morning. Same route, park, benches, the corner store back home. And every day I find someone to talk to. The cashier at the store, a young mother with a stroller on a bench, a man walking his dog, a worker fixing the sidewalk. I do not force myself on anyone. I just say something simple. Beautiful morning today. Nice dog. What breed is that? Have you worked here long? People almost always respond. Sometimes the conversation lasts a minute, sometimes 20 minutes. Sometimes I learn something interesting. Sometimes I just hear a living voice I have never heard before. Here is what happens in the brain during that kind of conversation. You do not know this person. You do not know how they will respond. You do not know what they will say. The brain switches on completely. Attention. Reading the face, the tone of voice, and finding the right words. Fast assessment of the situation. Adaptation. This is not just socializing. It is a full workout across every system at once. Talking to people you know is important too, but it is familiar. The brain knows. These people knows the reactions, knows the topics. It works at half capacity. A stranger is full load. A new problem every time. My contemporaries, the ones who have made it this far, mostly stay home. They call their children, watch television, talk to the same people they have talked to for 40 years. I understand that after a certain age, the world starts to shrink. It happens on its own, quietly. The circle of people gets smaller. The routes get shorter. The topics of conversation get narrower. I decided I would resist that, shrinking deliberately. Every day, one stranger. That is my personal boundary against the narrowing of the world. That is the whole secret. 3 habits. Write by hand every morning. Learn one new thing every day. Talk to a stranger every day. 10 minutes in the morning, a few minutes in the afternoon, a few minutes on a walk. No pills, no expensive programs, no special equipment. I started this at 68 after I lost Dorothy. It was a hard time. My mind was looking for a way into the dark. These three habits did not let it go there. They gave it work every day. While there is work, there is purpose. While there is purpose, there is life. Today, I turn 90 years old. This morning,